Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of the launch. We are going to be talking about your website today. Number one thing about your website that I can say is, first of all, before anything, what is the goal of your website? For my company, Creative Rocket Ship, it is to display our work and services to people and to generate leads, really. To generate someone basically coming to the site, viewing it, and then saying we like their work and sending us an email to help them out with their business. If you're a plumber, you've probably got a similar goal to us. You're just trying to do lead generation. If you're a e-commerce website, you might be trying to sell a skateboard or something like that to someone online. So everyone's got different goals for what they are trying to do, and you need to establish what those goals are before you build your website, because those should be the main things that you're pushing on your website, and it's going to affect the design of the website based on what your goal is. So once you've selected a goal, some things that you want to keep in mind as far as talking to a web designer and hiring someone, if you don't work with us, you want to make sure that your website's going to be responsive, which basically just means that it formats differently on a mobile, tablet, and desktop device. So you don't have to play the pinching game to blow up and click a link on your phone. Google has started to pick up on what sites are responsive and what sites aren't. And if you are not responsive, Google will actually start ranking you down. So it's a lot tougher to get any kind of ranking with Google. And it's just a better user experience in general for everyone if you have a responsive site. So definitely make sure that your site is responsive. Another big question that we get into is who's going to manage our site. Am I going to manage it, or are you going to manage our site? And I always recommend that we manage our site, or we manage our client site, unless there's major updates that need to be done. If you own a store and you're putting up new products every day, and it's going to cost a lot for maintenance for someone to have to do that, and you just prefer to do that in-house because that's kind of what your day-to-day job is right now, or you've got someone to do that, that's great. But if you own a plumbing business, or you're a lawyer, and you want to update your website once a month or twice a year, there's really no point to have your website built in WordPress, in my opinion. We at Creative Rocket Ship, we build all our sites from scratch, custom, ideally, so that they're built to achieve the goal of whatever our client has described, and we create a custom look and feel for that particular brand. You can go through WordPress, and it's a great way to get started. And if you don't have a lot of resources to get started, you can create a pretty professional website without knowing a lot about web design. The issues that I have with WordPress are, one, it's susceptible to hackers. For some reason, there's a sect of hackers out there who find that they know the WordPress structure, so they specifically look for WordPress sites to hack. It's not a huge concern, but something to be aware of. The other side, and more importantly, is a lot of my clients, I turn over a website to, and they think they'll manage their website, but they don't really understand what all is involved in that. And it's not like the commercials where you see someone click the mouse 3 times, and whatever image they were thinking of in their head pops up on the screen, and then you can just drag it over here and drop it. It doesn't work like the Wix commercials show you. There's a back end. You need probably an hour or 2 of training at least on the back end to understand how to use it and where to update different pages and stuff like that. And if you're if you're a person that doesn't use the computer often, if you're a plumber and I explain this to you, in January, and then in March or June, you need to decide that you want to add a service to your website or change something, there's a good chance you're not even going to remember the tutorial that we went over when we ran through it for those 2 hours. So the other thing that I find with WordPress is that there's a lot of third-party updates, which is essentially, your website is built of pieces from all these different contributors that gave you free pieces to put on your website, which is great. But you're also at the mercy of those people to keep those up to date, and when they do update them, not to break. I know WordPress is constantly on a weekly basis. You're looking at updating your website from different plugins to different versions of WordPress. So there's just a lot of maintenance involved with WordPress that, quite honestly, if we build it outside of there, we just don't have those issues. If we build it custom on the side, We'll edit the site for you. We offer up to 3 to 5 changes per month. That's, whether it's text or adding an image or swapping out some text or something like that, adding or deleting. We offer 3 basic changes per month. If you want to add a page or two, there's fees associated with that, but the fee associated with adding a page versus the fee associated with putting in a content management system for you to edit everything on your website is very minimal. So you need to add like 20 pages before you're even justifying the cost of that content management system. In addition to that, I've seen a lot of websites where we build the website and it looks great and the client's really happy. And then we hand them the keys to the car. And then I come back 2 months later because they've called me and they have driven the car off the road into a ditch. And, the website doesn't look like it was when we launched it. They're not sure what they changed about it. They know that something's not right about it, but they tweaked some things and now they can't track the cause of the problem. And in addition to that, they've taken some design liberties on their own and put some things in that really don't fit with the rest of the company. So when you work with an agency like us to not only build your site, but also to manage your site, whenever you have changes, you get our feedback of at least, at the end of the day, you're the client, will do what you want with your website. But there's a good chance that as the specialist in web design, you may be affecting something that you don't realize you're affecting, or we may have a better way to do something that you haven't even thought of yet. So when you're constantly, they call it maintenance, but building your site and upgrading your site and making it better, a lot of times it's having a person that knows what they're doing to help you make it better as well versus trying to do it yourself. So if you've got massive updates that you're going to be doing, and you're going to be wanting to edit it every single day, look for a content management system. There's no real way to get around that. You're not going to want to pay the fees of a company to edit that, and it's going to be a headache with emails. If you are lighter on the updates and you're not fully invested on learning, the finer points of WordPress and stuff like that to tweak your website, I would recommend having a company manage your site. And, whether they have a monthly maintenance fee, we don't have that, but some companies do. It's still probably worth it compared to the headache that you're going to be involved with trying to edit your own site. So that is kind of the benefits and the positives and negatives to managing your own site versus having someone manage it for you. Obviously, I'm a little bit one-sided on that one, but that's my personal opinion. In addition to that, we have SEO, which you'll want to make sure if someone's building your website, you want to have basic search engine optimization, what I call on-page search engine optimization. SEO, organic search engine optimization, is a huge process, and people pay a minimum of $750 a month, I think, if you're getting anything useful to do search engine optimization. And that is an ongoing process of building links and pushing your website out to different websites and doing all sorts of things like that. So that's one aspect of SEO. The other aspect, which is much more easy to accomplish and something that you should make sure that your web designer is doing, is your on-page SEO. So what I mean by that is that your title tags in your website, these are things that you want to mention to a web designer if you're working with them. You want to make sure that you have title tags that are relevant for search engines. You want to make sure that you have meta descriptions, and those are things that are not really seen by the user unless they search on like Google for you. It's the little text that comes up underneath your link on Google is your meta description. Your title is the name of the link that shows up on Google. You want to make sure that they put in your H1 headings, which is really like your headline, your first headline and some stuff like that. There are actually headings up to H6. I don't want to get too complicated with these terms, but really just focus on H1. H2 through 6 really don't have that much effect on your search engine ranking. But H1, you want to be your H1 tag. You want to, maybe your headline of your website. If you're talking about plumbing services in Detroit, Michigan, you might want that to be your H1 tagline, or your H1 tag, so that people understand. Basically, an H1 tag is explaining what your page is about the most, I guess, the most common theme of that page. So we've got that, and then we've got a sitemap. A sitemap is the last piece that you really want to have in there. your sitemap essentially tells Google how many pages are on your site, what all is linked to it, and that'll help Google give you a search engine ranking as well. So you're going to be looking at your title, which is when you search for your company on Google, what's the little text in blue that comes up at the very top of it. Also shows up in the header of your website when someone loads it. You want to look at your meta description, which is the text that shows up under your link in Google, and that's really not visible to the public other than that. But it should describe your company and be unique for each page on your website, depending on what that page is about. You want to have your H1 tag, which is basically, again, a phrase on your page that you can pull out of the text that is, the basic concept behind that page, or the most relevant topic you can think of to list that page under. And then the last thing is the sitemap, which is, again, just letting people know how many pages there are. You can also mention to your designer that you want him to make sure that the alt tags are all filled in, and without getting too complicated with that. An alt tag is essentially a keyword that goes in next to whenever you have an image on your website. Google or the web requires that you have an alt tag, and the alt tag is essentially if someone is blind, they cannot read, then the alt tag will explain what that image is to them. And it may not be used for that function very often, where an actual person with visual impairment is viewing your website, but Google reads all of your alt tags. So if you start labeling your alt tags and you start putting images in that match your keywords and the things that you want to rank for on search, those will also help you. So real quick rundown on SEO again: title, description, sitemap, H1 and H2 tags, and your alt tags. Those are the 5 things that you really want to make sure your SEO guy is looking into for your on-page SEO. Beyond that, like I said, $750 a month for organic SEO minimum is what I would say. If you're getting it for less than that, they're probably not doing a whole lot for you. And you really need to think long and hard before you're going to go down that organic SEO route, because it is something that could take 6 months easily before you start seeing the results of it. And you need to be in it for the long haul if you're going to do that. So definitely is worth it in the long haul if you can start ranking number 1 organically for Google for a specific keyword that really defines your business or explains a product that you offer. But it is very costly, and it's not cheap to get up there, and it does take some time. So it's not something that happens overnight. Other than that, I mean, keep your website simple. And, everyone wants a cool website that looks great. And I get a lot of people that send me, examples of websites, because I always ask for examples when we start a website of something that they like or something that they like the look of. And make sure that you go through those websites and click on them and actually use them, because I can't tell you how many times I, talk to someone and they're like, oh, well, I really like the homepage. It just looked cool. And I'm like, okay, well, what about, inside the website? What did you like about it? Did you click around? Did you go to the interior page? Well, no, I just liked the website. The homepage had a video on it and it had a headline. I thought it was really cool. And that's fine. I mean, it's just a very basic look at a website. And your consumer is not going to go to just your homepage and say, oh, I like the look of that, I'll call them. They're going to use your website. So you want to make sure that your website is, above all, functional, that they can understand how to use it. Craigslist is not a beautiful site, but it's very functional, and everyone knows how to use it. And I'd rather have that than a fancy video on the front page and then have no one understand how to post their ads. So make sure you keep your form over your function, or function over form. It can look great too. There's nothing to say that your website should not look great, but make sure that the user friendliness and the intuitiveness of it, that it makes common sense when you're going through your website and how it operates. I think that's about it for website. There's a lot more that I could get into, and if you decide to hire a company to work on your website, we'll talk much more in depth about your personal needs. But some basic things to look for when you're talking, to a web designer or someone else, and trying to get started. Just kind of a good base set of questions and things to be aware of or to request. Pricing wise, you could really go all over the map on a website. It depends on the functionality, so I'm not even going to throw out a number there. But depending on whether you're generating leads or opening up a shop with 1,000 products, you could be looking at $500 to $50,000. So it's very broad. Call a specialist. I recommend getting 3 bids again, and go with the middle bid is usually my recommendation, because they're probably going to give you a decent product, and they won't be there's a lot of people out there who will tell you that they'll build a website for 500 and you'll be very disappointed in it. So just be wary of that. Take the middle bid is my recommendation, and get a few bids and talk to some people. At the end of the day, if you talk to the middle bid guy and you don't like the way that he's talking to you about your company, have a discussion with your website or about your website with your web designer. And if they don't have a half hour to talk to you about your website and the goals of your website, probably not the best bet either. So vet your web designer, vet your companies, and make sure that you're not hiring the cheapest guy unless he really interviewed the best, in which case you can go with him. But that is my advice on website design and things to look for. If you have any other questions or things that you need answered, please comment below, and I'll be happy to address any additional questions. Thanks.